Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom. Today, we have our returning guest, Karin Stein. She is with EcoMadres and the Moms Clean Air Force. Welcome back, Karin.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here again.
Thank you. So, I loved our last talk when we talked about what the Moms Clean Air Force does and what EcoMadres and EcoMusica does. So could you give people a quick recap of just how all these are interconnected and how you guys got started?
Absolutely. Moms Clean Air Force is a national organization. We have about 1.5 million members nationwide. And many of those members are parents, caretakers, grandparents, but also just concerned citizens. Our mission is, if I were to summarize it, to fight for clean air, to fight against the climate crisis, do what we can on that front, and fight for environmental justice. And our focus within all that are children and vulnerable individuals in general. And EcoMadres is a program within Moms Clean Air Force that is specifically has the purpose of engaging Latina communities in this overall effort. And EcoMusica is within EcoMadres. So we've got Moms Clean Air Force, the umbrella for EcoMadres, and within EcoMadres, we have EcoMusica, which is something that I lead. I'm Colombian, I'm a musician, and we use music as a language to reach, to engage, to build trust in Latino communities.
I love the fact that you do such a vast engagement, because one of your quotes is, once you're a mom, you're every child's mom, which I think people need to, and I think even if you're not a mom, you look out for the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, it should be instinctive to all of us, right?
It should be. And I love what you guys are doing, because you are actually taking that messaging and you're putting it out there. And with music, because music is it's a way to tie everything together for people. So I believe you have some songs you're going to be sharing today. So before we launch into some details, let's hear a song.
I do. So this is one of the, you will hear me with my little instrument, but really what you need to imagine is our entire ensemble, which is called Son Tierra, and it is at a minimum 6 people. When we can, we perform with 8 or 9 people. We're all Latinos, Latinas, various ethnic backgrounds, various nationalities, and we play a variety of tunes that have to do with these issues that we work on. So I'm going to start with one that we include in our repertoire, but imagine the whole band, please.
Absolutely gorgeous. You have a beautiful voice and clearly talented. What was that song about?
That was it's a song about a caged toucan, and the caged toucan becomes a symbol for what humans want. They want that beautiful bird for themselves, right? It becomes a symbol of what humans want versus what nature needs to be able to support us.
Oh, I love that. That's very meaningful. And I mean, that's what you guys do. Actually, you're appealing to a very diverse community of people through song.
Very.
And I believe your styles, you said, and please forgive the pronunciation, cumbia, banda, bolero, and contemporary pop.
Yeah,
So you're
exactly.
tying all of these together for people.
I mean, we can't possibly cover all Latino music styles, but we try to cover a diversity because even though we have in common, all of us, I don't know a single culture certainly not in Latin America and the Caribbean, that doesn't respond strongly to music.
Yeah.
But within that, we have our differences and our preferences. So at least we try to symbolize various styles because we want to connect with that large diversity of Latinos and Latinas and however we define ourselves. And, in Latin America, we speak over 400 languages, and some of those are here. It's not just Spanish. It's not just Portuguese. There are a lot of indigenous languages that are part of that diversity. And we include at least one indigenous song as well but other than that, it's just a mix. We want to symbolize diversity with music and messaging.
I actually did not know there were over 400 languages. That is a new one to me. I knew there were many. I knew there was more than just Spanish and Portuguese. I did not know it was 400 though, that's still spoken. So that's pretty remarkable that you're able to incorporate that. You guys are also extraordinarily active in policy and legislation and helping our government try to do what's right. And recently the EPA did announce that they are going to start monitoring mercury and toxic air. And this has a lot to do primarily with air pollution and children getting sick, and also pregnant mothers transferring that mercury poisoning into an unborn child. What's the significance of properly monitoring our air pollution and the long-term goals that lead to asthma and sickness and health?
Well, they're huge. Moms Clean Air Force, in a way, cut its teeth as an organization around the issue of mercury contamination in what emanates from the smokestacks of coal plants. And EPA has been regulating mercury for a long time. MOMS has been behind increasing and improving. I don't like to think of them as regulations. I like to think of them as protections, because we mustn't forget for a minute that we're talking not about statistics here. We're talking about human lives, and that must never be forgotten. And so these protections had improved, but even if EPA says for a coal plant to put out 5 kilograms of mercury a year is acceptable, that is just, in terms of, if you translate that into human lives, and especially the development of fetuses and children, it is not sufficient. And so now these protections have been improved because any amount of mercury, I mean, these new protections increase the protection against all kinds of heavy metals and particle pollution. So arsenic, lead, chromium, etc., nickel. But mercury is particularly pernicious because there is no safe level for humans. It falls, let's say it comes out of the smokestack, some of it falls on the ground, some of it falls in water. When it reaches the water, in the water, it gets transformed by bacterial action and other mechanisms into methyl mercury. Methyl mercury is incredibly toxic, and it has the singular distinction that it concentrates in fatty tissue. So methyl mercury gets into the fatty tissue of fish. As smaller fish get eaten by bigger fish, this methyl mercury concentrates. So whatever got measured at the smokestack in the beginning becomes sometimes as much as 100 times more concentrated in the fish.
Because they're just going to keep eating more fish that are more contaminated, and it just builds up.
Exactly. And then humans eat the fish. And if a person is pregnant and she eats the fish, that fatty tissue that contains the methyl mercury in the fish goes into the brain of the fetus. And in the brain, it has the capacity to really cause serious developmental damage, motor damage. And so then a child is born with a much reduced possibility of reaching his or her or their potential in life, because before they were even born, they were contaminated by something that was hampering their brain development. And then, of course, if small children eat fish that is contaminated with methylmercury, similar thing. They're still in development. Their brains are going to be affected. So what we're celebrating here is that the protections are tightened, because I repeat, no amount of mercury is safe for humans, no matter what number you put on it. And secondly, for the first time, coal plants must monitor their emissions constantly. It used to be more,
Sporadic.
at certain times.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That to me is one of the most exciting new protections for the humans, especially those who live up or downwind from a coal plant, downstream from a coal plant, because now we will know actually day by day, not just when the factory or the coal plant chooses, what is being put out.
And I love the fact, not when the coal plant chooses, because let's be honest, it's going to fluctuate how much is done each and every day. It's like when people do it, like when they do a census every 10 years or whatever, you're getting a very small snapshot of a community where it should be something continuous. So you can actually see that full breadth of data. Yeah. And this continuous measuring will give you that full breadth of data. And mercury, terrible material. I mean, I've been exposed to it as a child from those mercury thermometers. I was dumb. I played with it. I broke it. And not the smartest kid in the world, but I played with them. But also air pollution from these coal plants that are just pumping out smoke and billowing it out. And a lot of people are like, well, it doesn't really affect me directly. Not that you know of. I mean, these particulate matter can actually travel very, very far. And the fact that it's not affecting you directly doesn't mean it's not affecting the people down the street. And that's what we need to start thinking of with EcoMadres. You guys are always thinking of everyone as a collective. We are all in this together. And so your initiative with asthma, I believe tomorrow is World Asthma Day, as you told me.
That's right.
We need to really focus on, maybe you could explain to people that asthma is not just something, it's a mild inconvenience, or maybe some kids get it and they grow out of it. This is not that.
No. I mean, asthma is a killer. Let's be very clear about this. Asthma does kill people, and it kills children. It is often a genetic condition, and more also triggered by pollutants.
Yes. And
there are, I don't know, maybe 24 million people in this country roughly affected by asthma, and 7% of them are children. Now, children are particularly at risk when they develop asthma, or in general, the lungs of children, because children breathe faster than adults. So proportionately, whatever you and I breathe in affects us one way, but when a child breathes it in, that child is affected more proportionally to you and me, because those lungs are working harder. Also, children spend a lot of time outdoors, or should, in a safe environment, right? And they exercise more, they move more, and so the breathing intensity tends to be higher in children. And so the particulate matter and anything that contaminates the air has the potential of affecting children disproportionately. And then let's break it down even farther. Of those children, if you're an African American child, you are 8 times more likely to develop asthma than white non-Hispanic children, for example.
Good
and if you're a Native American child, just yesterday I attended an event in Omaha, Nebraska, where we were asking Berkshire Hathaway, which owns nationwide several very highly contaminating coal plants still. And I was one of the speakers at this event, but before me came 2 women, Ho-Chunk women, who talked about what's going on their reservation. They're exactly downwind or upwind, whichever way you look at it, from some of the most polluting coal plants that Berkshire Hathaway owns in our region. Oh. And I cannot tell you, these women were in tears describing what's going on in their communities, the high asthma rates, the high heart disease rates, COPD, pulmonary disease. And they are nationally have the highest the highest rates of coronary disease related to particle pollution. That's coming straight from those coal plants.
Oh, yes.
And so if you're a person of color, you are disproportionately affected. And if you're a child of color, it's even harder. And so these new EPA guidelines will also soon reduce the particle pollution that is permitted to come out of smokestacks of coal plants. And we hope, of course, that this will make a difference in the communities that need it most very fast.
You know, it's funny, you triggered two memories for me right here. One was my high school biology teacher. I loved this man. He was wonderful to me. But I remember talking about pollution. So we're going back to the 80s, guys, okay? We're talking about pollution. And he said that smokestacks these people could put scrubbers on them. And, you know, what that meant back then, I'm not really sure, but he said it would clean the air. And I said, well, then why don't people do that? And I grew up outside of Detroit. And he said, because it costs money and they don't want to spend the money.
Exactly.
Which then triggered a memory of a satirical cartoon I think I saw last week or so. And it was two businessmen talking and saying, well, we'll kill a bunch of people, but we'll make a few billion out of it.
Well, and you know, my comeback to that is, if you're that concerned about the economy, and I mean, bottom line here, people over profits, please. I mean, that just needs to be, again, I repeat, statistics are not statistics. Statistics are a child. I know a mother. I have a friend in Southeast Iowa whose child, and that whole neighborhood where she lives, it's a Latino neighborhood, has been there for 2-3 generations, high heart disease rate, high pulmonary disease rate. They're all in an area that mixes industry with residential areas. And that's very common, right? So
Yeah.
You have these communities that mix the two, and the people who live in those homes, which tend to be less expensive, are the ones who can least afford the health effects that they're burdened with because they live in this area. So this friend of mine, she has asthma, her 2 children have asthma, have asthma, and her youngest child, his asthma is such that if he goes outside in cold, dry air in the winter, for example, he immediately gets an asthma attack. This child is now 10 years old. He has never been able to play outdoors in the winter. Never. And so that's what statistics are. They're not numbers. They're children who can't play outdoors. They are watching your parents die prematurely. They're observing your child not do as well as they could in school or move as swiftly as they could because of mercury damage. I mean, statistics are people. They're not numbers.
That is a message that needs to be screamed from every rooftop, because people just think of numbers. Oh, it's, you know, this percentage is this percent, you know, they look at pie charts and like, well, you know, it's not so bad. Mm-hmm. Well, that one pie chart that's not so bad, those are actually human beings that are dying.
Exactly. And there is a high cost. If you want to talk strictly economics, I mean, increased allergies because of climate change and because of pollutants, allergies and asthma cost this country billions of dollars every year.
Healthcare, you name it. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, no, I mean, there is, and there are interesting studies that actually show how much the economy saves by investing in protections.
Oh, you're talking to an insurance person here. Mitigation will always be cheaper than responding, than resilience, than rebuilding. Exactly. Absolutely. So is there another song that you wanted to share with us?
There is. I just need to fix something. I see that this is moving a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed your camera was drifting a little bit, but I think you're. So what's this song about?
Okay, the song is, if you will, it's like the anthem for our group Son Tierra. And it says, I'm just going to sing the very last section. It's our children who give us our strength. It's their health and their future that we will not abandon. We have one planet, and that's it. And that is why we want to raise our voices. EcoMadres and EcoPadres, let the song be heard. EcoMadres and EcoPadres, let's take action. So, of course, you take action by going to EcoMadres.org or momscleanairforce.org, right? So that's my song to encourage you to join us and take action. Here we go. Let's see if I can. Usually, starting a song in the middle is not a good idea because your brain messes with you, but let's see if I can pull this off. Son los hijos que tenemos, los que tanto impulso dan. Su salud y su futuro no vamos a despreciar. Es un mundo el que tenemos, un planeta y nada más. Y es por eso que queremos nuestras voces levantar. Ecomadres y ecopadres, que se escuche esta canción. Ecomadres y ecopadres, vamos a tomar acción. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Ecomadres y ecopadres, vamos a tomar acción.
Absolutely gorgeous. I'm coming back. Hold on. I just had to hit the right buttons. Beautiful song. And I mean, would you guys, you tour, right? You have, like, you can go to other states and show people what you guys do and then send your messaging out. So
yes.
People can book you. I think that's wonderful.
We have the delight to support directly an event that Moms Clean Air Force and EcoMadres are hosting. And other times we get called just because somebody likes our music. And then we use the fact that we're there as a platform to send out messages and inform our Latino sisters and brothers about what's affecting them, what they might not know.
And you know that, you are absolutely right. A lot of people have no idea because the communication isn't very good with our climate people. That's why I started this whole ESJ show. We're not really good at explaining things simply. We like to throw in a lot of technical jargon and then wonder why people don't understand us.
Well, let me just say, hats off to Moms Clean Air Force, because from the get-go, Moms has been on a mission to take scientific knowledge and break it down into fact sheets. And if you go to ecomadres.org or to momscleanairforce.org, you will find, I don't know, at this point, 100 fact sheets about anything from or obviously mercury pollution, plastics, and mental health, obviously the climate crisis, and all of each, and you can search the fact sheets by topic, and many of them are in Spanish as well.
Perfect.
And each fact sheet is no more than 2 pages front and back with images, very clear, simple language going right to the core of what a particular issue is about. So great resources. They're free. Share them, download them, take them to your school, take them to your church. They're great resources, and they remind us of the interconnectedness of things. It's not just mercury. It's not just particle pollution. It's not just increased heat. These things are connected. So if you have a pre-existing condition, and now because of climate change, we have increased exposure to mold in our homes, then we're not safe anywhere anymore, because outside not, and inside not. Oh, yeah. If we live near a highway and we get exposed to that particle pollution, that's a major driver in asthma. A lot of communities just think, oh, I just cough a lot. It's just the air, living in the city. No, it's not just the air living in a city. Your community is close to a high pollution source, and you need to know about this. And we at Moms and EcoMadres, we make it simple for you to let us know what's happening in your community, and we will take that information to our legislators and to EPA. And maybe we will even help you give a short testimony, because we understand people are overwhelmed. People are making ends meet, sometimes barely. And at the end of the day, you're just exhausted. So at EcoMadres and Moms Clean Air Force, we try to have empathy with those difficulties, and we try to make it as simple as possible for you to recognize that those high asthma rates in your community are not necessarily the same in other communities that are more privileged. And take a look at what's happening in your community, tell us, and we will help you get that message out.
Because everyone's message is important, and it's important that they know their rights, because they should not be exposed to this stuff, especially when it's backed by large companies that know better.
Mm-hmm.
I will simply leave it at that. So you've already talked momscleanairforce.org. You have EcoMadres, EcoMusica. By chance, are there any events coming up that people might be able to go to?
Well, we work at a national level, and I'm here in the Midwest, so I just had a big event yesterday. But online, we're constantly, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Facebook, because we are constantly, regardless of where you live, we're constantly hosting short talks about certain issues. Those become events that are accessible to anybody. If you have a suggestion for a topic we should cover, please drop us a line. I mean, you can easily contact and send us a message. So follow us online, because that is, regardless of where you live in the country, where you find out what we're doing online. And we're constantly putting out information and interviews and such. And then if you sign up, you will also find out what's maybe happening in your specific region. Because I know that some of my colleagues around the country are doing in-person event for Mother's Day, which is coming right up. Others are not. Others are doing it online. So if you follow us, you will find out what's happening nationally, but more importantly, also things right in your vicinity so that you can attend.
I absolutely love it. Thank you, Karin, for your time. The work you're doing is extremely important, just to make sure that everyone feels safe and welcomed and that they matter. That is the most important thing.
Thank you so much. And if I may say one last thing.
Yes.
The physical aspects of how we're harmed by pollution are one thing, but there are all kinds of other effects that are connected. Mental health. The pollution affects our mental health. And not just because we're feeling down physically, but there are processes in the brain from these pollutants that affect our mental health. And the other message is, I just recently thinking about a community here in Iowa that got a grade B from the State of the Air report that the American Lung Association puts out. It's a major tool for us at Moms Clean Air Force. And a grade B doesn't sound so bad to you and me. But if I have asthma, a grade B for air quality is not good enough for me. And we don't want to leave anybody behind, especially not our children.
Absolutely, beautifully said. And you know what? We can do better. It's possible.
We can, absolutely. Absolutely. And we must.
Thank you
so very much for having me.
Oh, anytime. And as you guys know, open invitation, any updates that you guys have, you are more than welcome to come here and share the words. Please, guys, please check out Moms Clean Air Force. Please check out EcoMadres, EcoMusica. Very important organizations that's messaging what the damages of air pollution can cause. So please donate if you can, volunteer if you can, get involved. We're all in this together. Pollution doesn't care where you live. It's going to find you. Thank you, guys. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom. We'll catch you next time.